Most people believe feeling older is simply what happens with age, that the stiffness in the body, the slower mornings, the dull heaviness behind the eyes are unavoidable. But what most people are feeling is not age. It is unreturned energy. You wake up in the morning, but your body hasn't fully arrived. Your breath is shallow, your shoulders are already tight. Your mind begins moving before your feet touch the ground. You stand up, and instead of feeling fresh, you feel behind. Not exhausted, just not renewed. So you compensate. You stretch quickly, you reach for caffeine, you scroll, hoping to wake up. And without realizing it, the day takes your energy before you've had a chance to gather it. This is the quiet problem no one names. Modern mornings scatter qi. Alarms shock the system. Urgency pulls attention upward. The body is rushed before circulation is restored. By the time you begin your day, your system is already compensating using tension instead of flow. This is why people feel older even when they sleep enough. This is why joints feel stiff, breath feels shallow, and the mind feels heavy before the day even begins. In traditional cultivation, youth was never measured by appearance. It was measured by movement. When qi circulates freely, the body feels light, the joints feel open, the mind feels clear and awake. When qi stagnates, everything feels older than it should. No supplement fixes this. No workout solves it. No amount of willpower restores it. Because this is not about strength. It is about circulation. There is one simple qi exercise that restores this circulation every morning. Not a workout, not a stretch routine, not something that drains you. It takes only a few minutes. And it does one thing modern life rarely allows. It lets qi return to the body before the mind pulls it away. Before we go into the exercise itself, you need to understand why this simple movement works and why doing it incorrectly does nothing at all. That is what comes next. Because this exercise is not about adding energy. It is about allowing energy to return. Most people fail with qi practices because they treat them like workouts, something to push through, something to perform correctly, something to finish. But qi does not respond to effort. It responds to permission. If the mind rushes, the exercise becomes empty. If the body strains, circulation tightens instead of opening. This is why the same movement can make one person feel younger and leave another unchanged. The difference is not the technique, it is the state you enter it with. So before you move, you must first arrive. Before the body works, the qi must be allowed to settle. That is the part no one teaches, and that is where we begin next. Once this is understood, the exercise stops being something you do and becomes something you enter. You are not trying to wake the body up. You are giving it the space to wake itself. This is why the timing matters. It must be done before the day claims you, before messages, before news, before intention turns into urgency. In that brief window after waking, qi is closest to the surface, not yet scattered, not yet pulled upward. A few slow, deliberate minutes here do more than an hour later in the day. Because you are not correcting damage, you are preventing it. This is also why doing the movement mechanically does nothing. If the breath is ignored, qi does not follow. Long ago, in a mountain village at the edge of a wide valley, there lived an old Taoist cultivator known for his vitality. His hair was silver, but his steps were light. His back was straight, his breath calm, his eyes clear in the early morning light. Villagers often asked him how he had kept his strength, while others his age had grown stiff and slow. The old man never spoke of herbs. He never spoke of training. Instead, one morning, he invited a young farmer to walk with him at dawn. The farmer was strong, but tired. He rose early each day, worked hard, and still woke up feeling heavy. As the sun began to rise, the old man stopped beside a quiet stream. "Watch the water," he said. The stream moved gently downhill, clear and unhurried. "This is how energy moves when nothing blocks it," the old man said. Then he pointed to a small bend where fallen branches had gathered overnight. The water slowed, sediment settled, the stream grew cloudy. The water did not age, the old man continued. It was only delayed. The farmer nodded, but did not yet understand. The old man then asked him to carry 2 buckets of water up the path. The farmer lifted them quickly and hurried forward. Within minutes, his shoulders tightened, his breath shortened, his steps grew heavy. The old man followed behind, empty-handed. After a short distance, the old man asked the farmer to stop. "Now," he said, "carry them again, but move only as fast as your breath allows." The farmer slowed. His shoulders softened. His breathing deepened. The weight felt different. They reached the top together. The old man smiled. "You are not tired because your body is weak," he said. "You are tired because you move before your energy arrives." The farmer looked down at the buckets, then at his own chest. That morning, the old man showed him a single gentle movement performed every day at sunrise. Nothing strenuous, nothing impressive, just a way to let energy return before the effort began. Months later, the farmer noticed something strange. His mornings felt lighter. His joints opened more easily. His breath stayed deep throughout the day. He had not become younger, but he no longer felt old. The old man's teaching was simple. Energy does not fade with time, he said. It fades when it is never allowed to come home. And that is why the exercise you are about to learn is done in the morning, before work, before urgency, before the day pulls chi away. In the next section, we will uncover the core principle that makes this simple movement work and why doing more actually makes it less effective. Because what matters is not the story itself, but what it quietly points to. The old man did not give the farmer strength. He gave him timing. He did not add energy. He stopped it from being lost. That is the difference most people miss. They try to generate youth instead of removing what drains it. The exercise you are about to learn works for the same reason. It does not build power. It restores circulation. It does not demand effort. It restores order. When done at the right moment, with the right quality of attention, it returns chi to the body before the day begins to scatter it. That is why the movement is simple. That is why it feels almost too gentle. And that is why, when done correctly, its effect lasts far longer than the few minutes it takes. Now we can look at the principle behind it. So when you practice, you are not just moving, but allowing energy to come home. Because once this is seen, the question quietly changes. It is no longer what to add to your morning or how hard to practice, but what must be removed so chi can return on its own. This is where modern habits quietly interfere, not through exhaustion, but through subtle disruption. The principle behind this exercise is simple, but it is almost always misunderstood. You do not move first and hope energy will follow. Chi must arrive before movement begins. This is the core cultivation principle that determines whether a practice restores you or quietly drains you. Most people reverse the order. They wake up, stretch forcefully, tighten muscles, push blood, and expect circulation to improve. But circulation created by force is temporary. It borrows energy instead of restoring it. In traditional cultivation, the morning was treated as a return, not a warm-up. Sleep draws chi inward. Waking scatters it outward. The moment you rise, energy begins lifting toward the head, pulled by thought, sound, and urgency. If nothing guides it back down, the body pays the cost. Stiff joints, heavy limbs, foggy mind. So the first task in the morning is not to activate the body, it is to receive chi back into it. This is why the exercise you will learn is slow, why it is upright, why it begins with breath before movement. Breath is the bridge. When the breath descends, chi follows. When chi settles, movement becomes nourishing. If breath is rushed, chi stays scattered. If posture collapses, chi leaks. This is why doing the exercise correctly but impatiently does nothing, and doing it gently but with presence changes how the entire day feels. The core rule is unforgiving. Never ask the body to work before chi has arrived. When this rule is followed, even minimal movement restores youthfulness. When it is violated, even intense practice, accelerates fatigue. Ancient practitioners did not look young because they trained harder. They looked young because they never borrowed from tomorrow's energy to survive today. They moved only after settling. They worked only after circulation returned. This is why the exercise takes so little time. It is not doing much. It is doing it in the right order. In the next section, we will look at why modern mornings almost always violate this principle, and how a single habit silently ages the body before the day even begins. Because once this principle is clear, the problem is no longer what to practice. The problem becomes what interrupts it. Modern mornings are built in a way that almost guarantees qi never fully returns. Not because people do something wrong, but because they do too much, too soon. Sound enters before breath settles. Thought accelerates before posture stabilizes. Attention is pulled outward before the body has reclaimed itself. And once qi is scattered upward, everything that follows movement, exercise, even meditation must compensate instead of restore. This is why so many well-intended morning routines leave people feeling alert but not grounded, awake but not renewed. What comes next is not another practice, but an understanding of the single habit that quietly breaks the order every morning, and how removing it does more for youth and vitality than adding anything else. The problem is not that modern adults do not care about their health. The problem is that the moment they wake up, their qi is no longer their own. Work enters first. Notifications, deadlines, unfinished conversations from yesterday, and imagined pressures from tomorrow. Before the body has taken its first full breath, attention has already left it. Life follows closely behind. Responsibilities waiting to be managed, schedules to be optimized, bodies to be fed, decisions to be made. And beneath both work and life, there is a quieter tension that rarely gets named. Identity, the need to stay capable, to not fall behind, to prove silently that you are still functioning, still relevant, still holding things together. This is why mornings feel rushed, even when nothing urgent is happening. Qi is pulled upward by responsibility and self-expectation before it has a chance to settle back into the body. So when adults try to do something healthy in the morning, they do it from a scattered state. They stretch while checking messages. They exercise while already bracing for the day. They meditate while mentally rehearsing obligations. The body is present, but attention is not. Under these conditions, no practice can restore youthfulness, because youth, in cultivation terms, is not energy spent. It is energy kept. Modern adult life trains the opposite habit. Respond first, adjust later, catch up when you can. This constant outward pull forces the body to compensate with tension. Shoulders lift, jaw tightens, breath shortens. Over time, this becomes familiar, normal. People call it aging, but what is really happening is that qi is never allowed to return home. This is why so many adults feel older, not at night, but in the morning. They begin the day already dispersed. And once qi is dispersed at the start, everything that follows movement, effort, even rest is built on imbalance. This is the conflict modern adults live inside. They want vitality, but their mornings are designed for urgency. They want to feel younger, but their identity is tied to constant readiness. They want restoration, but they are never given permission to arrive before responding. This is why the qi exercise you are learning must come before work, before life management, before identity performance. Not because it is special, but because it is first. In the next section, we will look at what happens when this conflict goes unrecognized, why adults cycle between effort and exhaustion, and how resistance shows up in the body long before burnout appears. And when this conflict is repeated every morning, the body learns a pattern. It learns to stay alert, to brace before anything happens, to hold energy in reserve instead of letting it circulate. At first, this feels manageable. Then it feels normal. And eventually, it feels unavoidable. This is where effort quietly turns into strain, because the body is no longer resisting one hard day, it is preparing for an endless series of them. What follows is not collapse all at once, but a slow narrowing of vitality. And this narrowing is where the next problem appears, because once vitality begins to narrow, the body starts sending quieter signals, not pain, not illness, resistance. Mornings feel heavier, motivation fades more quickly. Practices that once felt nourishing begin to feel optional, then burdensome. This is where most people think they are failing again. But what is actually happening is the system protecting itself, and that protection misunderstood as weakness is the next turning point in the cycle. At some point, almost everyone reaches the same moment. You begin with good intention. You remember to practice. For a few mornings, the body feels lighter. Then one day, you forget, or you wake up late, or urgency takes over, and immediately, a familiar conclusion appears. I failed. I can't stay consistent. This never lasts. But in the language of cultivation, this moment is not failure. It is resistance showing itself. Modern adults are trained to treat resistance as a character flaw, a lack of discipline, a lack of commitment, a lack of will. But resistance is not the enemy. It is information. When the body resists, it is not rejecting the practice. It is reacting to how the practice is being asked to fit into an already strained system. If the morning is rushed, the exercise feels like one more task. If identity pressure is high, the practice becomes another thing to do right. If qi has not settled, even a gentle movement feels intrusive. So the body pulls back, attention dulls, interest fades, avoidance appears, not to sabotage progress, but to prevent overload. This is why relapse feels familiar, not because you lack willpower, but because the conditions that scattered qi were never changed. The practice was added on top of tension instead of removing it. Ancient cultivation never treated breakdown as something to fight through. When rhythm was lost, force was reduced. When resistance appeared, the practice was softened. When energy dropped, return was prioritized over progress. Modern adults do the opposite. They respond to missed days with guilt. They respond to resistance with stricter rules. They try to overpower a signal that is asking to be listened to. And this is how even a nourishing practice turns into another source of fatigue. In the xing-qi cycle, failure is not stopping. Failure is ignoring what the stop is pointing to. When resistance appears, it is asking for return to simplicity, return to a pace the body can trust, return to doing less so more can circulate. Consistency is misunderstood. It is not doing something every day no matter the cost. It is maintaining conditions that allows the body to say yes. A person who pauses, adjusts, and returns gently moves farther than someone who never stops, but is always forcing. When resistance is respected, it becomes guidance. And when guidance is followed, the cycle does not break, it resets. Because once resistance is understood this way, the practice no longer lives or dies by perfect mornings. It becomes flexible, forgiving, alive. Missing a day no longer feels like a loss. It feels like information. Tension no longer feels like failure. It feels like feedback. And instead of asking, why can't I keep this up? The question quietly shifts to something more useful. What would let my energy return today? This is where the cycle stops fighting you and starts working with you. And it is also where a deeper law comes into view, one that governs whether qi can settle at all, regardless of effort. Behind every successful cultivation practice, there is a law that never changes, not a rule you follow, a condition you respect. Qi does not respond to force, it responds to alignment. This is the deeper law most people never see. They believe effort creates results, that doing more produces more, that discipline fixes everything. But qi works differently. When the body, breath, and attention are not aligned, effort leaks. When they are aligned, even minimal movement restores. Alignment is not posture alone. It is not breathing alone. It is not intention alone. It is the moment when none of them are pulling in different directions. When alignment is lost, the body compensates. Muscles tighten to hold structure. Breath shortens to manage urgency. The mind speeds up to stay in control. This compensation feels productive, but it quietly accelerates aging because energy is being spent to maintain imbalance. Alignment reverses this. When posture is upright but relaxed, qi has a path. When breath is deep but unforced, qi has rhythm. When attention is present but not urgent, qi has space. Only then does circulation become nourishing instead of draining. This is why the same movement can restore one person and exhaust another. The difference is not strength, it is alignment. Most modern adults break this law before the day even begins. They move the body while the mind is already racing. They breathe shallowly while expecting depth. They practice while thinking about results, and then wonder why nothing changes. The deeper law is unforgiving. Qi cannot settle while the system is divided. Alignment is not something you achieve once. It is something you enter. And the morning is the easiest doorway. Before the day pulls attention outward. Before identity demands performance. Before urgency fractures the breath. This is why the exercise you are learning is done slowly, with simplicity, and without goals. It is not trying to make you stronger. It is allowing the body to stop fighting itself. When alignment is restored, youthfulness is not added. It reappears. Alignment does not hold if it exists only in the body. If the body settles, but the mind is already planning, qi rises again. If breath deepens, but intention is scattered, circulation fades. For alignment to last beyond the movement, it must include the whole system, body, mind, and the deeper sense of direction that guides how you enter the day. That integration is where the practice either becomes temporary relief or lasting renewal. And once this is understood, the exercise is no longer judged by how it feels in the moment, but by what it prevents later. Because lasting renewal is not created during the movement itself. It is created in what no longer needs to happen afterward. Less bracing, less rushing, less unconscious compensation. When the whole system is included, the day does not immediately pull qi upward again. Work arrives, but it does not steal your breath. Decisions appear, but they do not tighten the body. Attention moves outward, but it knows how to return. This is the difference between a practice that feels good for a few minutes and one that quietly changes how you age. The movement ends, but alignment continues. And from here, nothing more needs to be added, only protected. That is where the path moves next. Alignment does not live in the body alone. If it did, a few stretches would be enough. But the body is only one doorway. For the effect of this exercise to last, the mind must arrive with it, and the deeper sense of direction must stop pulling elsewhere. This is where most practices quietly fail. The body settles, but the mind is already reviewing messages. The breath deepens, but intention is scattered across the day. So qi rises again, and the benefit fades. True renewal happens when the whole system moves together. The body provides the ground, a posture that feels supported, not braced, a breath that can descend, not be held. This tells the nervous system it is safe to stay. The mind provides presence, not focus in the narrow sense, but willingness to remain with what is happening now. No planning, no measuring, no judging, just noticing when attention drifts and gently letting it return. And then there is the deeper layer, the one most people never name. Direction, not motivation, not goals. Direction is the quiet sense of why you are entering the day at all. When direction is unclear, the mind rushes to compensate. When direction is borrowed from urgency, fear, or comparison, the body tightens. This is why so many adults feel tired before the day has even asked anything of them. They wake up already proving something. Integration begins when you stop asking the exercise to fix your life and allow it to organize how you enter it. For a few minutes, there is nothing to prepare for, nothing to optimize, nothing to perform, only the experience of being here in the body with the breath, moving toward the day without being dragged into it. When body, mind, and direction are no longer arguing, qi stops leaking. The body feels lighter, not because it is energized, but because it is no longer compensating. The mind feels clearer, not because it is excited, but because it is no longer divided. This is why the effect of the exercise feels subtle at first and then surprisingly durable. You carry it with you, through movement, through work, through interaction, not as effort, but as a baseline. This is what people mistake for feeling younger. It is not youth returning, it is friction leaving. And when friction leaves, nothing dramatic replaces it. There is no surge, no high, no sense of having done something. There is simply more space. Space in the joints, space in the breath, space between one thought and the next. This is why the change is easy to miss if you are looking for intensity. But over time, this absence of friction compounds. You notice that mornings stop costing as much, that movement feels less negotiated, that attention returns more easily after being pulled away. The body does not resist the day as quickly, the mind does not scatter as far, and direction no longer needs to be forced. This is how the practice stays with you, not by standing out, but by removing what used to interfere. And from here, the work is no longer about technique, but about how you relate to who you are becoming while you practice. That is where the next shift quietly begins. This is where most practices quietly break, not because the movement stops working, but because identity steps back in. Modern adults rarely practice without trying to become someone, a healthier version, a more disciplined version, a younger version. And without noticing, the exercise is no longer about circulation. It becomes about fixing something, proving something, correcting who you think you are. This is when tension returns, because identity does not like to be rushed, and it does not respond well to pressure. In the xing-qi cycle, nothing new is required of you. There is no reinvention, only refinement. Ancient cultivation never asked a person to replace themselves. It asked them to remove what did not belong: excess effort, borrowed urgency, inherited expectations. Refinement is lighter than reinvention. Reinvention demands performance. Refinement allows honesty. When you approach the exercise trying to feel younger, qi tightens. When you approach it to return to yourself, qi settles. This is the difference. Identity refinement happens when you stop asking, is this working? Am I doing it right? Am I improving fast enough? And begin asking something quieter. Do I feel more here than before? If the answer is yes, the practice is working, even if nothing dramatic happens. Especially if nothing dramatic happens, because refinement works below the surface. It shows up when you choose a gentler pace without feeling guilty, when you miss a morning and return without self-judgment, when you stop needing the exercise to prove your vitality and let it simply support it. This is how the practice becomes stable, not through motivation, but through permission. Permission to stay who you are while letting go of what exhausts you. Permission to age without fighting time and feel younger by reducing friction. When identity stops interfering, the body listens again. The breath deepens without instruction. The posture organizes itself. Qi circulates because nothing is blocking it. This is why refinement lasts. It does not require belief. It does not require willpower. It only requires that you stop asking the practice to make you someone else. And once this shift happens, the practice no longer feels fragile. It does not depend on mood. It does not collapse when life gets busy. It does not disappear when a few days are missed, because it is no longer being used to change you. It is simply accompanying you. From here, the question of youth quietly changes. It is no longer about looking younger or feeling different from who you are. It becomes about how gently you move through time. And this is where the path opens forward, not toward improvement, but toward continuity. That is what remains to be seen next. At some point, this practice meets time, not time as numbers, not time as scheduled, time as something you feel. You notice it in quiet moments when you realize how many years were spent rushing mornings, how often vitality was postponed, how many times you told yourself you would slow down later. This is where regret usually appears. Not loud regret, not dramatic regret, the quiet kind, the sense that you lived slightly ahead of your body, that you borrowed energy instead of letting it return. That feeling younger was treated as something to regain instead of something to preserve. Most people respond to this feeling by trying to make up for lost time. They add more practice, they increase intensity, they demand faster results. But time does not respond to panic, and qi does not respond to guilt. In the xing-qi cycle, regret is not an accusation, it is information. It shows you where effort replaced care, where urgency replaced rhythm, where identity demanded performance instead of presence. Regret does not ask you to move faster, it asks you to move truer. This is where legacy quietly begins, not as something impressive, not as an outcome others will see, but as a pattern you repeat when no one is watching. The way you enter the morning, the way you choose circulation over stimulation, the way you let energy return before the world pulls it away. When this practice becomes part of your mornings, time changes character. It no longer feels like something you are chasing or falling behind. Progress no longer depends on perfect weeks or uninterrupted streaks. It depends on the return. Return without shame, return without restarting, return without trying to be younger than you are. This is why the path forward does not require catching up. There is nothing to catch up to. Youth, in cultivation terms, was never about reversing time. It was about staying in rhythm with it. Day after day, qi is allowed to come home. Day after day, tension is not carried forward. Day after day, the body is met before it is used. This is how exercise becomes more than a habit. It becomes a companion, something that walks with you as life changes, as energy fluctuates, as years pass. Not dramatic, not heroic, just steady. And this is how feeling younger stops being something you chase and becomes something you maintain, not through effort, but through alignment, not through resistance to time, but through cooperation with it. The xing-qi cycle was never meant to make you feel young once. It was meant to help you age without friction. So the path forward is simple. Begin the day by returning. Move only after qi arrives. Refine instead of forcing. Let morning set the tone. Do this, and time stops feeling like an enemy. It becomes a path, one you walk with less regret behind you and more vitality ahead. And once this rhythm is established, it does not need to be chased. It carries you forward on its own. And from here, nothing more needs to be added. No new routine, no higher intensity, no future version of yourself to chase. Only the decision to return each morning before the world asks for anything else. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Youth is not something you recover from. It is something you stop losing. When qi is allowed to come home first, the body remembers how to renew itself. When the day begins from alignment, time no longer erodes you quietly. So let the practice remain simple. Let it remain gentle. Let it remain yours. That is how it lasts.